County Sligo.
Thanks very much, Seán Kyne. Minister Kyne, I know probably events earlier today determined that you're here yourself to take this, and that's fine. Your area, just for the record, is rural affairs and natural resources, isn't that correct? Yeah, thanks, Minister, for coming along. Yeah, the issue of 159 post office closures is one that was taken without consultation with this House, the People's Representatives, the Dáil, the Seanad, even a county council throughout the country, where we had a private trade union, the Irish Postmasters Union, and An Post, a commercial semi-state, design a process for the closure of post offices nationwide without any consultation with the People's Representatives here. I was critical of former Minister Naughton and indeed the government generally for allowing this to take place. I think it's a bad precedent. The IPU do a splendid job on behalf of their members in terms of negotiating a retirement package, and they're entitled to do that. An Post are entitled to balance the books because of a commercial mandate. They're entitled to do that. But they neither speak for communities, and neither have the authority to decide what services communities need and indeed aspire to. That's our job in here, Minister, a job that your government have totally abdicated. They set up a flawed process whereby they would seek to close down post offices on the back of a retirement package, which people are entitled to apply for, and that's fine. And then this flawed process of a population of 500 people or more would have a post office or within a 15-kilometre radius. They determined that themselves. On we went, and we have 115 closures, 59 closures. In particular, we had Cliffany, Gurchin and Ballinfull, County Sligo. Cliffany were given a reprieve, even though they fell below the criteria that were set, because common sense prevailed, and An Post realised that this is a thriving village with a substantial number of people living in it, and it's one that's growing. We didn't see it in the context of Ballinfull, and we didn't see it in the context of Gurchin. But the most troubling aspect of this is, An Post informed, let's use Ballinfull as an example, in August, that they could make submissions by way of review up to and including the 28th of September. They did. The submission was put together very professionally, 51 pages of it. It was posted on the 27th of September and live at the department or with An Post on the 28th of September, and most peculiarly, 3 days later, Saturday and Sunday passed, and on the Monday morning got an email to say, you've been unsuccessful. What's more, the decision was taken on the 24th of September, 3 days before they sent their submission and 4 days before it even arrived in An Post. In fact, even if they did consider it over the course of the weekend, there's just no question to put any time into considering a submission of that nature. What we have here, and in that submission, if anybody read it, will show that 21 townlands are served by the Ballinfull post office, and a population of 1,036, all laid out in detail, but nobody in An Post or any independent reviewer had any interest in that. Gurchin, on the other hand, they have 512. A small town rather than a village, and yet we're closing that. Because the process is called for, it was rigged from the beginning. An independent reviewer. The independent reviewer was only allowed to adjudicate against the criteria the IPU, a trade union, and An Post they themselves set. But as we have been shown, where the decision was taken 3 days in the context of Ballinfull before the submission even arrived, it proved that the government are standing over this Mickey Mouse superficial process, sending communities to go out and act like fools, I among them, to put together submissions that are well thought out with the facts in terms of population and a community's commitment to their post office. And it doesn't matter. We don't care, because the IPU and An Post run the country. They decide who's going to get services. So we've made fools, Minister. Made fools out of communities all over the country. And in this instance, the Ballinfull example, and the proof that I can show you in writing, is that they were disrespected in such a way the decision was taken well before they even sent in their submission. And that's an insult in the extreme. So, Minister, I'm looking forward to hearing your response on this, and I'll come back then.
Good morning, Seán Kyne. I'd like to thank Deputy MacSharry for putting down this topical issue. I welcome the opportunity today to address this matter on behalf of the Department of Communications, Climate Action and Environment. Firstly, I want to thank postmasters, the length and breadth of the country, for the dedicated service that they have given to rural and urban communities over many years. As members are aware, some postmasters have taken the difficult decision in recent weeks to leave the business. I understand the concerns of older people and communities, and that this is an anxious time for many of them. We've all watched the gradual demise of the post office network over many years. More than 500 post offices closed during the economic boom in this country between 2002 and 2007, while no action was taken and the post office network was allowed to fall into decline. No new investment or services were put into it. Government did not want that to continue. The postmasters of this country, the communities that they serve, deserve a clear future, and a plan to be put in place for the development of and investment into the post office network and its services. We have now set out a clear path and future for the post office network. Almost 2 years ago, then Minister Naughton was presented with a future of An Post and the post office network that was uncertain and extremely bleak. There was a very real possibility that the company would go under. The potential for a complete shutdown of postal services with the loss of thousands of jobs was undeniable. Immediate action was needed to ensure the survival of An Post and the post office network. That was necessary to protect thousands of jobs across the country, the 9,000 people working in An Post. 2 years later, critically important decisions have been made. An Post has been stabilised because of the actions that have been taken. The company is changing from a 19th century model to one that has relevance and can have resonance in the 21st century in rural and urban areas. While the future is not as bleak for An Post, the underlying challenges remain. Mail volumes continue to decline. E-substitution and the move to online payments and online banking continue to have an impact on the post office network. There is widespread acceptance that the post office network requires modernisation to build, to maintain and to protect the service that meets the needs of communities across the country. An Post's renewed vision for the post office network centres on the availability of new services in a modernised, revitalised network. These services must include a better range of government services, financial services and e-commerce services for shoppers and small businesses. Since taking office, the then Minister Naughton had been driving the offline avenue with his officials, cabinet colleagues, the management team and An Post, the Office of Government Procurement and other agencies. Government approval was given recently to look at an offline avenue for all government online services. This work has stated, and Minister Naughton's successor has this work has started, and Minister Naughton's successor will update government on progress before the end of the year. Investment of €50 million in the network, equivalent to €45,000 per post office, is based on getting communities to use the enhanced services that the local post offices will provide through a modernised network. These measures are meaningless unless the public use the service the post office provides. Key to the survival of the network is the willingness of all of us to use it. Essential to delivering on the renewed vision of the post office network is the agreement reached with the Irish Postmasters Union, the IPU. In its negotiations with An Post, postmasters and postmistresses sought both modernisation of the network and a voluntary redundancies package for those who wanted to leave the business. It is important that the decision of those who wish to leave the business is respected. The decision on whether to accept the package is one for the individual postmasters. An independent appeals process has been put in place to enable communities to have a decision relating to their local office reviewed. This is part of a protocol that the then Minister Naughton specifically sought. In addition, any retailer in the locations of the 159 post offices can apply to An Post to be considered to take over some or all of the services of the closing post office. If a retailer looks to avail of services and if An Post decides, for one reason or another, not to provide them, that decision can also be submitted for review through the independent process. An Post has confirmed that it has extended the deadline for receipt of appeals under this process to Wednesday, 31st of October. I understand the Deputy has raised concerns about the outcome of his specific appeal. It is important to point out that the review process is an independent one and neither the Minister nor his officials have a role in it. It would therefore not be appropriate for me to comment on individual cases. I understand, however, that former Minister Naughton has raised the matter with An Post and has been assured that the contents of the detailed appeal referred to by the Deputy were taken into account before the final determination issued. And I will ask officials in the Department to take on board the information that you have provided, if it is in addition to what they were previously led to believe. It is widely accepted that the post office network has been facing many challenges for some years now, with a continuing decline in transaction numbers, primarily driven by the move to online payments and online banking, as well as e-substitution. Standing still is not an option for the network. After years of drift, there is now a clear direction for An Post and the post office network.
Yeah, look, Minister, I know it was prepared by somebody else, but I mean, that's a shocking reply, quite frankly. I mean, it's a rigged process. The independent appeals process is totally rigged. They themselves privately came up with the 500 people and this 15-kilometre thing. I've proven to you that Ballinfull wasn't remotely looked at. In fact, the An Post first response on Ocean FM, given by one of their senior representatives, was, oh, that was a typo in the letter. They've come back a little bit from that now, and they're now saying, oh, no, we did consider everything. They didn't. You threw them under the bus. There's 1,000 people. The other also won't clarify how they're calculating population for an area that's very substantially rural. Ballinfull is not a village. It serves 21 town lands, 1,000 plus people. Gertrude is a very substantial village, a small town really, but we're not listening to them either. So this was a decision taken by the IPU, a trade union, and An Post. We know An Post have a commercial mandate. You have to subvent them. 8,700 post offices, rural post offices in the UK, get subvention every year. 130 million sterling. It'll only be 10 million here. We're talking very small money. But it's not about cost. It's about realising that there's a value to rural Ireland. We have a culture that people live in rural Ireland. And the Varadkar vision for rural Ireland needs to be more than milk it for every photo call it's worth, then shut it down. Because in practice, that's what's happening. The shameful launch of Ireland 2040 down in Sligo. You must think the people are stupid. And then sending them off to work for 6 weeks, putting together a detailed report as Ballinfull and Gertrude did. We've proven that Ballinfull's wasn't even considered because the response was out on Monday morning, with a date saying the decision was taken the previous Monday. So Gertrude and others throughout the country can reasonably assume the same, that they were going through a superficial process because the decision was already made by somebody else. And the Minister of the Day, while he's gone, the rest of you are responsible now. What are you going to do about it? We passed a motion in here democratically 2 weeks ago about preserving the 159 post office, about providing subvention. But what happened to that? That probably got thrown into the room along with all the other motions that we pass in here because government tend to ignore the will of Parliament while saying, well, that's a matter for An Post and that's a matter for the HSE and that's a matter for everybody but us. So I hope, and you mentioned earlier on about previous governments allowing post offices to close. You're right. They got their answer in 2011. They were nearly wiped out. Since then, we at least have been trying to learn those lessons. What's clear from your response today is your government has not.
Thank you. That's the first time I heard that was the closure of the post offices that nearly wiped out Fianna Fáil in 2011. But that's an interesting twist on history. But anyway, it is a government policy that An Post remains a strong, viable company in a position to provide a high-quality nationwide postal service, and that it maintains a nationwide customer-focused network of post offices in the community. Government remains fully committed to a sustainable post office network, which is a key piece of economic and social infrastructure for both rural and urban areas. The postmasters of this country and the communities they serve deserve a clear future and a plan to be put in place for the development of and investment into the post office network and its services. Such action was not taken by a series of governments over many decades. We have now set out a clear path and future for the post office network. The decision on whether to accept the voluntary redundancy package was one for the individual postmasters, and it's important that those decisions are respected. Where a post office closes, it's important to note that 70% of the business transfers to a neighbouring office. The reality is that by facilitating those that wish to exit the business, neighbouring offices will be further supported, thereby ensuring a sustainable network for the future. Innovation and change are being embraced, and new services to meet new needs for the future are being developed. Politically, our responsibility is to lead that change, to strengthen An Post as a public company delivering a public service, and to support the decisions required to translate that aspiration into effective action. The post offices that are being closed are ensuring the viability of the remaining post offices. And I think you have commented here, or others have, that they should all be subvented now. To prevent the closure, we have to ask the question, should we subvent all the other ones that closed, for example, in Sligo Leitrim? The 2 in 2005 in Sligo, the 1 in 2006, another 1 in 2007, the 2 in 2008, the 1 in 2009, the 4 in 2010, and in Leitrim, 1 in 2005, 3 in 2006, 2 in 2007, 2 in 2008, 1 in 2009, 2 in 2010. Should we reopen all of those as well and put the viability of all remaining post offices at risk? I will raise it by officials, as I said, the issues that you have raised, in particular this specific case, and if something has gone astray or whatever else, we will ask officials to look at it.